Okay, I'm trying this one again. Animal behavior, communication, and everything else. This is going to be the last one of these. So we have the little waggle dance of honeybees. This is one of those Nobel Prize guys, and he spent decades with him and students watching honeybee behavior through glass-walled hives, and they figured out that you have this, you have several patterns of movement to indicate where food is. And this little waggle dance, when the scouts come back in and kind of dance around all the other worker bees, this means your food is near. Let's see. This means your food is in the same direction as the sun. So just see how it keeps going around in that. Let's see if I can stick an arrow, a big arrow here maybe. That is just a mess. I'll just go with it for now. Same direction as the sun. Do it this way. Arrow, arrow, arrow. Right? Then if it's in the opposite direction as the sun, then you come down, up, and over. So we went this way. So we're just going opposite. That's not even close. Let me undo that. Opposite, opposite. All right. And then they even, if you were like 30 degrees off, just pretend it's 30, then their little dance would be at that angle. So this would, food is 30 direction to the right of the sun, kind of thing. Pheromones are chemical communications between critters, and these are primarily through smell and taste. They can be short distance, like in the case of fruit fly courtship, or long distance, where your male silkworm moth should be here, can detect female pheromones from several kilometers away, and then once they're together, the pheromones also help trigger specific courtship behaviors. In the queen substance of honeybees, there's lots and lots of bee pheromones, but the queen substance is what inhibits the development of ovaries in workers and attracts the male drones to the queen during her mating flights out of the hive. Minnows and catfish have these alarm signals that when one is attacked, then the others will cluster together and get to the bottom of the tank or river or stream they're in, so that they are safer from attack. And this is really, really effective even in very low concentrations. Spatial learning. Okay, so let's say, pretend these look like pine cones. And the female dagger wasp, they know where their nests are in relation to other landmarks. So let's say this is their little nest, and she takes a flight, and she's buzzing around over here, and when she comes back to her nest, right? But let's say you move her nest. I'm sorry, we're not moving her nest. We're moving the pine cones. So she was out here flying around, and you moved her nest, and she's going to try to go back and find it here. She's relying on things in her environment, like the circle of pine cones, to tell her where her nest is. This is Darwin's orchid, and you can see this is where insects are going to come and try to get nectar, but the nectar is way down here, and that's a really long way. And when Darwin saw this orchid, he said there has to be some sort of animal that's got a really long proboscis. This is like about a foot away, a really long proboscis, or kind of tongue-like structure, that can reach down into that. And he was right. And this is an example of coevolution. Your pollinators were probably originally parasites who were eating the flowers or whatever, and some of them started transferring pollen, and then eventually they evolved with one another. This moth is Xanthopan morgani. Pray, that's an E. Dicta. For Darwin's prediction, right? It's not supposed to be double underlined. That's me emphasizing that. Altruism. Altruism is looking out for the needs of others, like vampire bats in South America regurgitating blood into the mouth of a member of the clan who didn't get a meal that night. That's usually not going to be the case with animals, but if the benefit of the behavior is greater than the cost on the individual, then it does happen sometimes. And Hamilton took Darwin's idea of fitness and morphed it some and called it inclusive fitness, where offspring or relatives are included in your fitness because you share genes, and so you're still passing those genes on. Let's see, the bloodlings, ground squirrels give alarm calls so that others can get to safety if there's a predator in the area. Honeybees, let me see, the workers are all sterile and still work to defend and the bee. And then naked mole rats, there's one female that mates with 1 to 3 males, which are called kings. The female is the queen. And there can be 75 to 250 individuals in their little colony. And the rest of the colony forages for roots and tubers for the kings and the queen and their offspring. Let's see, coefficient of relatedness. There's a equation in your book which mainly says the benefit of the behavior, this is coefficient of relatedness though, is greater than the cost, right? So that's the same thing. But I wanted to make sure you saw it. Kin selection is natural selection that favors altruistic behavior by enhancing reproductive success of relatives. Reciprocal altruism is the exchange of aid, and it's common between unrelated humans, but it's limited to large species with social groups that are stable enough for individuals to have many chances for exchange to occur. And this is sometimes considered cheating by behavioral ecologists. Sociobiology is a term. E.O. Wilson wrote a book about it, Sociobiology, the New Synthesis, just be able to relate it to his name, and it's mainly how human culture is related to evolutionary theory. Migration is migration, regular long distance changes in location. But how do you find your way if it's somewhere you've never been? You're gonna, or even if you have been there, it's really, really far. It's not like they have GPS, right? They can't pull out their iPhone, find their way. So there's lots of theories. Position relative to the sun. But if it's at night, maybe position relative to the North Star. But then even on cloudy days and nights, birds and other animals are still able to find their way. So there's this idea of electromagnetic fields coming into play. And some birds and fishes in their heads contain a little bit of magnetite, which is a magnetic non-mineral that... anyway. So maybe it can pull on a trigger somewhere in the brain. But there's also this idea that they have different photoreceptors in their eyes and they can actually see the magnetic fields. And there is some evidence supported by experiments to link this for some species anyway. Foraging behaviors, everybody has to have food, right? So optimal foraging model is natural selection acting on behavior that allows animals to exploit food sources while using the least amount of energy possible. Snapping turtle here is going to actually sit with its mouth open. That's how it hunts, because it has a little pink wiggly tongue that it uses to attract food. It's like it is fishing. And so natural selection is going to act on or pass the genes on of snapping turtles that have the pinkest tongue or longest pinkest tongue, and the one that knows how to wiggle it best and exploit that best. When it comes to balancing risk and reward, our example is mule deer. And mule deer eat out in the open because their predators are mountain lions. And if you have a field here, and maybe we should get some green trees instead of pink trees, right? And trees around. The mountain lions don't attack out in the open. They attack here in the edges. So mule deer aren't going to eat here where they can be attacked. They're going to eat out here where they're not. Easy enough. All right. Sorry that was long.